My name is Elaine Salinas Kane, and this is my language inventory. This is my family. My youngest son is the only member of my immediate family who can speak another language other than English. These are my parents. They've been married 58 years. They had 10 children. Sadly, my dad passed away this January. This is my mother. She is a native Spanish speaker, born in San Antonio, Texas. When she went to school, she had to learn to speak English. In school, she struggled, and at some point, dropped out of school. My father was the second oldest in a family of 6. He too was a native Spanish speaker, born on a farm in Crystal City, Texas. Crystal City is a very small city. My dad would take us there when we were little on road trips. But last year, I took my father there with my children. I wanted them to see where my father grew up. When my son Jake asked my dad which house he lived in, he explained to them that his family didn't have a house. They just stayed with people. This is a movie theater in Crystal City. My dad told us that he used to go here to see movies, but he had to enter through the back. He was not allowed to enter into the front of the building. My dad and his family were migrant workers. Although they lived in Crystal City, a farming city, there was no work there. They had to work in Karnes City, and then they would migrate to Wisconsin, and then back again to Texas. My dad attended school, but was told that he could only speak English, and was severely punished if he spoke Spanish. When my dad was about 12 years old, his mother died, and as the second oldest, he took care of his younger sisters and brothers, and eventually stopped going to school. After my mom stopped going to school, she moved with her grandmother somewhere near Chicago. She met my dad at a dance in Chicago. My parents got married and moved to Gary, Indiana. My parents had 5 of their 10 children in Gary, Indiana, but my mom got sick and they had to move back to San Antonio. My dad took pride in our home. He was always fixing something or adding something on. He also believed in his family and the value of an education. One goal that my parents had was that all their children were going to graduate from high school because they knew how hard life could be without an education. I was the last child to graduate from high school. We actually made the news because all 10 of us graduated from the same high school. At my graduation ceremony, my parents were recognized, as well as all 10 children. Although most of my siblings attended college, only 3 have a bachelor's degree. I will be the second person in my family to receive a master's degree. I, along with my sister and my brother, are all UTSA graduates. My sister is the oldest of the 10. She has a master's degree in education, and I'm the youngest of the family. In the picture as well is my niece, who is also a UTSA graduate. Although my parents valued education, they did not want us to learn Spanish. They didn't want us to struggle like they did when they were in school. This doesn't mean that Spanish wasn't spoken in my household. It was always spoken. They just spoke Spanish to each other, and not really to us. My oldest sister speaks Spanish fluently. However, most of my siblings can only speak a few words. I can't speak any Spanish. I have come across many situations in which people have said shame on you for not knowing Spanish. This has always bothered me. As I was growing up, it didn't matter to me that I could only speak English. But as I got older, I could see the value of being bilingual. I have been in the field of education for 15 years, and I can see that not knowing Spanish has been a hindrance to my career. For instance, it is difficult for me to observe teachers in dual language classrooms or to conduct parent trainings in my district because many of our parents are Spanish speakers. Because I knew the importance of learning a second language, I enrolled my youngest child in a dual language program. He entered the program in kindergarten. This program was a pilot program that was being introduced in my district. When I entered my child in this program, I had to sign a letter of commitment that said I would keep my child in the program until 5th grade. This was a difficult commitment to agree to because it meant that he would not receive any support in the learning of his second language when he was at home because we didn't know how to speak Spanish. There were many times that I have thought about taking my son out of this program because I thought it was not successful. He would come home with homework and it was in Spanish and we couldn't help him. My husband and I were not successful at helping him. It was very frustrating. Eventually I realized that the program was not the problem. And it wasn't my child. It was my frustration at not being able to help him. Once I got over that, we were able to see more success through the program. My parents were very supportive about putting Dylan in a dual language program. My parents were happy that one of their grandchildren would be able to speak Spanish. As my parents grew older, they understood the importance of learning Spanish and that speaking Spanish in school was not something people frowned upon. My dad would help Dylan with his homework. It was wonderful to hear Dylan have conversations with my parents in Spanish.